right, welcome back to another edition of the Forts Athletics Life and Coaching Podcast, the Sunny Edition. I'm your host, Charles Inferno. We're at Forts Athletics. We provide coaches and athletes with the tools they need in order to achieve their unique and specific goals. And if you have been watching or listening to the last couple episodes that I've recorded and shared, basically spent about 5 days or 5 episodes worth of videos talking about goals and the goal setting process and steps to accomplish them. And what I wanted to share today in a shorter video, and I'll share it across all social media platforms in much shorter length, but I'll go into more detail here, is an activity that I started incorporating when I started coaching again at Nazareth College. And basically, if you follow research and the research about goal setting and accountability and process versus outcome goals, what we have found as researchers in the community is that if you are able to verbalize your goal and add specifics to why it's important for you to accomplish that goal, you're more likely to accomplish that goal, which kind of makes sense to a certain extent. And, you know, just simply like speaking a goal into existence doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to accomplish it. So I'm going to give you an example, personal example, and the activity. So basically it's one sentence or 2 or 3, depending on, you know, if you're like me, is I want to insert goal achievement because a supporting fact and another supporting fact if you're interested in doing so. So basically, I want to accomplish whatever because of blank and blank. And I started sharing that activity with my athletes at NAS, where I asked them to write out their goals and tell themselves, write out why they were important to them. And then we shared out as a group, as a whole team of throwers. So our 5 throwers at the time, we basically carved out a piece of our practice to complete this activity, and each of them wrote their goal on their whiteboard, because they all had whiteboards to kind of keep track of the daily throws and what we were working on and what we were focusing on for the day. So that goal was always listed on their own personal board, and then I had a separate board for myself where I asked them to write out all their goals. And it's a little bit more powerful when it's in your own handwriting as opposed for me just writing it out for them. So one, it brings it to an existence, and they're able to add supporting reasons why it's important for them to accomplish their goal. And 2, then it holds them accountable to their teammates and vice versa. So the example I'm going to share is a personal one. In 2019, I thought it would be a good idea to register for a sprint triathlon because I was bored with my training and not really interested in what I was doing. I hadn't competed in a powerlifting meet in a long time, and I was a few years younger than I am now, but I could tell that I just wasn't as interested in powerlifting as much as I used to be when I was in my 20s. So I decided to register for a sprint triathlon just on a whim, having the bike that I used when I was in high school and never really running more than, 100, 200 meters at a time, or ever having swam laps in my life. But I registered because it was important to me, because I wanted to set a healthier example for my kids, and I wanted to challenge myself and test my body to see if I could actually accomplish this feat of completing the sprint triathlon. Now, sprint triathlon's not really that long. It's the shortest one of the ones you can register for, at least in this area, Western New York. So it's a 750 meter swim, followed by a 13.1 mile bike ride, followed by a 5K or 3.1 miles. So the first one I did, I trained like, 5 months for the race to take me 2 hours and 1 minute, and my goal was to finish, and then a sub goal of 2 hours. Now, it's not a lot of work, basically. I mean, most of our cross-country athletes complete that much work in a day, or any swimmer who has practice is going to swim, triple or, quadruple the amount of distance. And, 13 miles doesn't seem that much on a bike once you actually get going. So I was kind of upset with the 2-hour mark. So the following year, I registered for 2 more races, and I completed the first one in August of 20 in, let's see here. Nope, not August of 20, August of 19. First one I did was in 20, or 18. Then in 19, I did 2 races. The first one I completed in an hour and 32 minutes and like 40 seconds. And then the second one was an hour and 30 minutes and change. And what's funny about that is today I was watching videos from that time, and I made a YouTube video about, training and what it was like and what have you. And my 6-year-old says, "Man, Daddy, you are still not fat from that video." And it kind of hits home differently when your kids, they don't have a filter, right? So knowing that what I'm doing is making an impression on them is very powerful. It's not about the time or finishing necessarily. I mean, finishing obviously is cool. But setting an example for them, because that's going to be a little easier on my body in the long run than trying to power lift, especially after tearing my pec last summer. That type of training is kind of a no-go for me now, moving forward. But that's really important to me. So setting a good example for my kids and showing them that, Daddy can do other things besides just, power lift and bench press and squat and do all those things. So for coaches, if you're going to complete this activity with your athletes, it's not like an hour activity where you ask them to do that before practice starts on a whim. I introduced the idea with my kids, and probably after a couple weeks is when we actually sat down and actually completed the activity, because I wanted them to kind of wrap their minds around what exactly they wanted to do and why it was important to them. And I think that's the most critical component to this, that if it's worthwhile to you and you love it and you enjoy it, you're more likely going to see the goal through, or at least keep the process going or the journey going, as opposed to just saying you're going to accomplish something and not moving forward with any steps. That's it for today's episode. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.